So those ones, because they're the ones that are really like so much in our faces, and the family is struggling, because it's shown in one person, but because really addiction goes beyond that. So this addiction comes when other family members might be struggling with something that we don't recognize as an addiction, because there is only one addiction, and all of us, like as human beings, we might have we would have one behavior or another that we are dealing with. And so when we are faced with something in our face, especially like the drugs, I was having a conversation this morning, like with someone who has a food addiction, like what she terms as a food addiction. And so what it looks like, so for her, it's something she can actually see. So you can imagine someone having this something that she considers an addiction, and then you have someone else like who has, for example, like a drug addiction. And a lot of times drug addiction comes with other things, especially in young people. It coexists with sometimes stealing. I would say, like, I'll call it stealing, because there is the need for funds to fund the addiction. So when it gets really complicated like that, then it tells on the family members. So what we were discussing today was about facts and stories. So the fact is, this person has taken a drug and they're behaving this way. A fact is taking my property. This person has taken my property. But then, those facts, yes, they can be challenging. But then when we build stories, and it's not intentional, it's not something we do, then we get so, like, things can get so complicated. But then it's always being pointed back at that person. And so with the other family members, there's less focus on seeing the person, because they are feeling attacked, like they're feeling defensive. This person is doing that and it's causing me to feel this way. And, as discussions are going on, we do understand that this can be very difficult, and we're not in any way minimizing it, but it's in the family, like, not seeing this family member as a distraction. Because yes, something has happened to the family member, they're having an addiction and they're behaving this way, and this is how it's affecting us. But when we all point fingers at each other, then it becomes complicated. But when we step aside and look at, okay, this is the person, we love this person, we have and as we look at the person, I think the behavior seems a bit distant, like there's a kind of distance. And so in being able to connect, then we're able to see naturally the solutions that come along. But but the moment fingers start being pointed, like what we see is the other person begins to point the finger back, because there's always, yes, you treat me this way, and when I get depressed, I'm likely to turn to something else. And then the other side, yes, but because you did this, like, it's affecting me. So it starts with somebody struggling. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a common problem, isn't it, with families, because we're
Yeah.
deeply hurt. We don't, and we don't want to see our family members struggles, but we don't want to see our loved ones struggle. And so yeah, we turn it on ourselves as well. And unfortunately that comes out as judgment and harshness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's true. And we know that when there is the egos at play, there's no healing involved. And so it'll just become, like Aisha said, this battle, or this, go-between of, you did this, you did that, and it just gets messy. And quite often than not, it could be unintentional, it could be because the loved one could be, you know, saying whatever it is out of fear, out of, you know, guilt, shame, whatever.
Yeah.
But also that's not helpful. It's not helpful for anybody to be pinpointed, because when there is that, like I said, there if there's no connection, there can't be any change. You know, yeah, I think I'll just leave it as that.
So let's maybe look at the potential impacts that addiction might have on family members, and then we can look at ways in which we can heal through that. So something, you know, like some of the consequences, of course, of addiction is, you know, the emotional toll of the loved ones, you know, and this is what we're talking about here, this behavior. You know, we feel betrayed. We feel, you know, and we can also feel emotionally neglected, you know, when our loved ones are, you know, depending on, you know, where they are, like particularly spouses, I'm saying here. We feel hurt when we're seeing our loved ones looking like they're spiritually disconnected. We become disheartened when we can see that, you know, their prayers or their Islamic values are compromised.
There could even be anger in there as well.
Absolutely.
Thrown in.
Absolutely. We I mean, we could probably look at, you know, even the children's development, you know, children in homes that are also affected by addiction. Often the kids can, you know, experience anxiety, instability, or even they can have internalized shame over, you know, this behavior. And just never underestimate the emotional burden of holding the family together as well. I mean, this generally falls onto you know, the parents, and trying to sort of, emotionally manage and hold the family together while trying to manage the fallout of the addiction also.
And also they may not even know how to, you know, the way that they try may not be the way that is needed, or may not be in the best way, but it's not done, and I feel like it's not done intentionally to hurt anybody or anything like that. They just don't know another way.
I mean, we get that it's not easy. It's confusing. It's heartbreaking. We don't want anyone to be, you know, lost in or, you know, seduced into these addictions, right? Least of all our loved ones.
And I guess because we're talking about families here and how we can support, or how they can support their loved ones, it is about, you know, finding that, well, seeing beyond the behavior, and however that looks for in your situation or their situation, seeing beyond that. And, you know, the healing comes when we're able to see with compassion and have that understanding, where you can kind of meet in the middle, where there is no judgment. Yes, of course it's going to hurt. I'm not saying that it's not. You know, it can be difficult, absolutely. But I think when we can have an understanding and we can come with, you know, the compassion, while also, you know, holding limits if we need to hold limits, because I'm not saying
exactly.
being passive in any sort of way, shape or form, because sometimes we need to hold limits, firm limits.
That's it. And it's definitely one of the things for, you know, on the path of healing, is that, you know, we do hold those loving limits.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes just listening beyond the words, without trying to fix them, but just hearing, because sometimes just listening is enough. you know, for them to be heard and feel seen and heard. And you never know, like, when somebody is going to just see that through their own eyes and go, hang on a second, I'm not being judged anymore. I'm being heard. I'm being seen. SubhanAllah. I'm just
Yeah,
feeling
yeah, and the setting,
Yeah.
can you talk about, Daniela or Pamela, can you talk about more about the setting limits? Because, you know, I think that's a very powerful one, the setting the peaceful limits, because
It's setting
the
healthy boundaries, you know, not to enable the addiction,
mm,
because often we will, just to keep the peace. Okay, so
yeah,
they're coming to me, they're threatening me with, you know, for money or whatever. Because let's talk about substance abuse here, right?
Yeah.
There's a way and means that you can hold a loving limit to your loved one, not give them the money. Like, no, you know what they're going to do with it. Not give it to them, and have, I mean, obviously, I'm not suggesting that you do this alone either. You know, that there's, if you know, the more family members you've got, you know, on the same path, the better it is for you, and of course the person who needs the help as well. Yeah, the ability to say no.
And I think that comes, like, I think this next part also comes with that ability to be able to set those loving limits. When you're in that grounded space, when you have your own, what's the word? When you're able to regulate yourself, so you're not projecting onto somebody else, but just being grounded. And I think the proper word, well, for me, is the proper word, grounded, by not wavering, you know, by somebody else's thoughts or uproar or whatever, adult tantrum, child tantrum, whatever it is, even our own tantrums at times, you know, but being able to say, you know, and staying firm in that without getting, like, if we feel that our emotions are getting on edge, like we're becoming drawn into it and we feel our own struggle by not being able to set the limit, that's when we have to back off, because it's not going to work like that. You know, it always comes from that grounded space, from that neutral space. That's maybe a better word to say.
Yeah. Backing off still doesn't mean giving in and enabling. Backing off might just be, you know, stepping back instead of stepping forward for a little bit, just to gain your footing, gain your bearings, to then be in a stronger frame of mind to be able to then tackle the next challenge. Yeah. Probably doing some research around the impact of codependency as well. You know, loving someone doesn't mean that you're going to be that you have to lose yourself in this. And I think that's what Daniela was sort of touching on, is that it's so easy to do that, to lose yourself in this, and then we're no help.
yeah.
No help.
Yeah,
You know?
and I think that was an important thing again about setting the limit doesn't start from the outside again. It's when you are in a grounded place, then it naturally extends. Brings to mind someone, you know, that was struggling with, this is like a relative having an addiction, and then the person, like the family member, has struggle with, you know, when he asks me money, for example, if any other family member asks me, I have a different response to my brother, because I'm seeing the addiction, I'm not seeing the person, like coming to that realization. So, and then it leads that family member to come into the place where she recognizes she needs to be, is a form of setting the boundary, she needs to be more financially aware as well, so that she knows already what's needed and she knows what she's given, of course. And then when she's given, you know, like Islamic giving to family members is always, you know, more loved, like before you begin to go outside. So being able to set those financial limits, like for herself, then allowed her to set financial limits with her brother as well.
Mm.
Yeah. And in
Yeah.
other ways too. Mm.
It really does start from ourselves, doesn't it? At the end of the
Yeah.
day, you know, it
Mm.
may look as though it has to come from the other person, but it really does. A lot of it comes
Yeah.
from us, you know.
Mm.
And I
And
think
the
part of that, oh, go on.
yeah, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say a part of that is, you know, educating ourselves, you know, having that understanding around, well, one, ourselves, and also the nature of addiction and the recovery. Or I wouldn't even say the recovery, I would say the healing, because there is healing with addictions. You know, we've had people that have healed from it, and it's not a disease at all.
Had families heal. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Families come together.
That's right.
And
And
when they first come to us, you know, it was an impossible thing. You know, they're exhausted. They're at their wits' end. This is the last resort. And you know, alhamdulillah, they've managed to come together.
yeah, and that's a blessing indeed, you know.
Mm.
Yeah. What I was going to say is the first step, and probably the most easiest step, is let's start with making dua for them. Dua for them, dua for us, giving us the strength to be able to know and the wisdom to know what the next step should be that's going to support them on this, you know, healing journey.
Yeah. And that dua with certainty as well, with that
Yeah.
yaqeen, not just a lip service, you know, but with yaqeen that this can happen. Like it can happen to everyone, anyone, really. But knowing that Allah will answer in His timing.
Absolutely.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
And never underestimating as well, like just how merciful Allah is.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part that sometimes people forget. Like, who are we to have Allah's forgiveness? Who am I to have Allah's forgiveness? But Allah is of forgiving, most merciful. And when we can do that to ourselves and for our loved ones, then that's when the healing process starts to, you know, start as well, I think. Inshallah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there is something we discussed earlier again today about a lot of people set goals, like to say, for example, okay, 100 days of sobriety, 3 months, and then realizing that those are the behaviors that are outwards, like really, because the addiction is within. How about looking at other things like the ability to let go and not stay in the past, even if the past was a few seconds ago, like a few minutes ago or yesterday, when the unwanted behavior happens, but being in this moment and being able to see that in this moment it's neutral. Like in this moment, being present is what is pleasing to Allah in this moment. The seeking the forgiveness, seeking help from Allah, rather than being held back by something that is already in the past or worrying about it continuing like beyond this current moment like that we're in. So being able to healing, like, so being able to look at sobriety versus healing.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's a big difference there, isn't there? So many people just focus on that sobriety, you know, how many days and whatever. And then
And when you mess up, you
Yeah.
stumble, you're just like that, then that shame cycle comes back in again,
exactly.
you know?
Exactly.
Whereas, yeah, focusing on each day, like today, Like this, in this moment, I don't have the craving, alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
And, you know, eventually those spaces in time of not having the craving will get bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. And I think, you know, part of the for family members as well is like letting go of the shame that, you know, you may be thinking for the family, for the person themselves, because when there's shame, you're not seeing that, well, there can't be healing there because there's some sort of thinking that's going on about whatever, you know, the past, the future, you know, all of that. But when we see, I think Aisha said it beautifully actually, when we are living in this moment, there is no like whatever happened a few moments ago, a few, you know, however long ago those moments were, whether it's today, yesterday, 5 seconds ago, and we can see, okay, like even if the person has slipped up, okay, they've slipped up, let's move on. You know, how can I help this person the next time or this time, or what, you know, whatever's going on for them. Yeah, it's not always an easy.
I love the comment. We have a comment there, just, you know, just one person who listens and gives us space can make a big difference.
Absolutely.
Because if you sort of look at from a, you know, a psycho-spiritual lens, for example, of, you know, Imam Al-Ghazali, or even some of the contemporary psychologists, or, you know, like Gabor Mate or something, you know, it's addiction is, you know, it often masks, you know, all of that sort of unprocessed stuff that we have, you know, and that internal dialogue that we've taken on, and a lot of it's not true. I mean, majority of it's not true. And when we really challenge ourselves, like we can just look at it and go, really, like, you know, wow, that's such an embedded thought process within me. But it's when I really sort of, when I just take another look at it, go, yeah, that's not true. That's not true. So, you know, any sort of I mean, it could be unprocessed grief, or, you know, feeling like a, you know, a deep lack of love. You know, these things, you know, we're carrying inside us, or, you know, all that spiritual emptiness. I mean, I know for myself, you know, as a revert, I had what I now know to be spiritual emptiness, because there was no sort of foundations of any sort of, you know, religion or spirituality or anything within my family. But there was like a soul craving for me, though. I knew that I just knew that there was something more than just this, you know. There was an explanation for why we're here and why anything is here, you know. And so, and for my personal journey, it led me down paths where I could have got myself into a lot of trouble, a lot more trouble than what I did. Alhamdulillah, you know, I found Islam and understand it. Got you know, this understanding of it at a heart level, spiritual level. You know, asking ourselves, do we really understand it? Do we have it? Yeah. And of course, you know, Shaitan exploits us. He keeps whispering to us. He exploits, you know, those untrue stories that we have about ourselves or about our loved ones.
And
And
that's when we can ask ourselves, like, is this helpful?
yes.
Is it not helpful?
That's
and
it.
weighing up, like just keeping it really simple, honestly.
That's
Because
it.
if it's not helpful, it can go. We don't need to
Yeah.
hold on to it because
And
that's
it
not going to
can
be helpful for
be that
anybody.
simple. And it can
Absolutely.
be that simple. We are really only one thought away from a complete transformation of life. You know, we're constantly at a crossroads in our thinking.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know, people like to put so much, I think, and I'm not watering it down, but if we do keep it simple, there's a lightness there. We're talking about light, you know, like just not making it heavy. There's no healing in heaviness. There's
Yeah.
only healing in lightness.
That's
And
right.
if we're thinking about the sobriety, like this how many days I've been sober, or this how many days I haven't picked up, or what this how many days I haven't eaten chocolate or drank coffee, or whatever it is, you know what? It's actually going to backfire on us. I can tell
That's
you for
it.
myself, it does that to me. Like if I've
Yeah.
not drunk coffee in blah, blah, had this many days or whatever it is, the moment I think of that is the moment I want it even more. And I will not give up until I've had one. I mean, now I'm all right. I actually don't want it anymore. But I mean, that was my my shortcomings, let's say. But if anyone holds on to that, you know, they've been free from it for so many days, and then they've, you know, had a relapse, and here we are again. No, it's not. Doesn't work like that. We've got to understand, like in the family cycle and from the individual, that's not healing. That's just a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
The healing is like, okay, yeah, I slipped up. All right. As Aisha said, okay, this next moment. Or in this present moment, not the next moment, this present moment. What now? And the other part with the healing is like, if we keep it light, then we're sure to find another way. We'll find an insight. We might find just something. And it does. It heals.
Yeah. You know, when you said that, Daniela, like what it brought me back again is to identity. You know, so if like, it's so easy, like, you know, with other models to say, I have to say that I'm an addict as part of the healing journey. And, you know, with that,
Oh
I think
no, what that
that
does to
brings
your nervous
all the
system.
heaviness.
No.
Yeah. Because everything is just framed around, you know, only addiction. But
The
when we go
label.
back,
The
what
label.
is true identity? And you know, we all have that one identity. We're here like to worship Allah, and it looks different from moment to moment. And so when it's framed that way, we're able to see, you know, in a much bigger way, find, so even the journey itself is an act of worship. So it's no
Yes.
longer, even as a family
The
member,
struggle
yeah,
is an
I'm
act of
having, yeah,
worship.
struggle,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm having to do this. It's more like, if I know that this is why I'm showing up, like for the sake of Allah, then it's not about a person. So it's sort of, and like it brings for me, like it brings the joy in it, because if we're living in the understanding that whatever action I do, I'm doing it for the sake of Allah, and so it hasn't gone to waste. So, you know, so even if it's taken, for example, saying that, you know, I'm living a behavior for the sake of Allah, and I do even one day, I set out of maybe one day out of 10, even taking it that way, it's, so even if it's the first day I do it, Allah has accepted. There is no failure in me not reaching that target.
Alhamdulillah.
Because right now, as an addict, I have failed, if that is the label. But as a believer, as a worshipper of Allah, this is something I've done for the sake of Allah that has been accepted. And so is being able to see that the outcome is not in my hands. This, what I do, like my intention and the action I do is like that's enough in itself. And then so that no matter how long, like, or the journey takes, so it's not about I got out of it like in 3 days, or it's taken this person 10 years to get out of it. It's all that. We have done this for the sake of Allah, and the outcome, like, it's always in the hands of Allah. So, like, so for me, not having the outcome on a person or on a family, that lifts a lot of heavy load. To know that. I don't know, like, does that make sense? No.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Does. Alhamdulillah.
A good question that's just sort of come to my mind, and I think Gabor Mate has asked this many times, and he's like, the question is not why the addiction, the question is why the pain, because the pain is what's driving the addiction, right? I don't know what, that's something random that
but
just
we
came
gotta
to my
be,
mind.
yeah, we got to be careful, because if
But we're
we're
not,
looking in the
but
why,
that's what that was my
Yeah.
next step of, we're not going to, I mean, this is coming from a person with the loved one, looking at the loved one, not the person themselves, like looking at the loved one and having that compassion and going, you know, instead of looking at it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, because it's not about unpacking it. It's not about, you know, finding, going in with a magnifying glass, and that, because that's going down that path is probably actually going to create more pain than what it is healing. But
yeah. And with our understanding, it's not about doing all of that. It's just
that's
about
correct. With our understanding, this is a subtractive psychology. We're taking things off your plate, off your mind, and you know, it truly is looking at the problem today, right this moment, not the past, not what might be, just what's here
Yeah.
right now in this moment.
Yeah,
So
and
I
the
think,
question, just shifts, well, because when, for me, what came up when you said why, not why the addiction, but why the pain. So if I look at, a family member, a relative, and I wonder why, the pain,
Why
I'm
the
looking at the
pain?
person
Yeah, it's
from a
compassion.
place of care. Yeah,
Yeah.
compassion. If I say why the addiction, then I'm looking at the action, and not taking my eyes away from the person.
It's hard not to judge when you're looking at the why the addiction, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Looking at the pain,
Yeah.
you're seeing the person beyond. Yeah.
And I guess if you're wondering that, it can open up those conversations, and that's the next part that I wanted to come
Absolutely.
to, where the healing can happen, for our loved ones, is, having those open conversations where there isn't that judgment. Try having those conversations. Well, it's not even about trying, it's just about having an open heart and an open mind, and not getting caught up in whatever there is that they're saying, because there could be healing in that. And yes, coming from a place of curiosity, I think that's what I say to a lot, is just get curious about, not from a place of ego, but just from a place of, how can I help you? And maybe this is something that we learn as we, go with the good feelings, is what I want to say.
Well, look, looking at the simple things that we get from the Quran, like, speaking the truth with kindness. Really look at the way we're talking to them.
Yeah.
Again, setting those firm, loving limits and loving boundaries. We love you, but we cannot do this anymore.
And the other one is, where, if there are emotions that come up for the other for your loved ones, they're allowed, but they shouldn't be punished. Of course, we can't tell you the circumstances that you're in, or how to navigate the circumstances, because you've got to use your wisdom in that. How to address different, the experience that you're facing, or the situation that you're facing in those sort of, in that moment, because every moment is also going to be different. No two moments are the same. So just having that, the curiosity and the wisdom to navigate the situations as they come up, but not also
Yeah.
being afraid, because so many people are afraid of their thinking or afraid of what can happen. And of course, like, doesn't mean that we don't again set limits or anything like that, but we also don't have to be afraid, because if we're afraid, we're creating a story in our mind. And again, that's not where the healing comes from. I hope that's making sense and
Yeah.
not going too deep or anything like that. But I just want to say, like, you know, at the end of the day, it's where there's love, where there's presence of love, even in the difficulty, that's again where the healing comes from. And that's what we want for.
And when we're talking about the presence of love, we're not saying permissive either.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know,
No, that's right.
like, that's why we said set loving limits before. You know, these limits are an act of love. This we love you, but we cannot, allow this to happen here anymore.
Yeah.
Something needs to change. When we don't want you out, but something has to change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing that I just wanted to say is that, you know, it's not like the healing itself isn't linear. It's not going to be like this. It's going to be up and down and around and, you know, in all sorts of ways. And that's okay. That's where it comes from. Everyone's, you know, just knowing that Allah's got each and every one of us, you know, we're under his care, inshallah. And yeah, I think that's so important to know, you know, for us to remember or to be reminded of, perhaps, you know, because sometimes we forget that as well. Each and every one of us, no one is I don't know what the word is. Anyway, doesn't matter. Yeah. So yeah, it starts with that one shift in our own perspective, you know, of seeing beyond the label, I think, you know, and I think that's a big part of it. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
you
Like
know,
the only
even
label I want to label
yeah,
myself with is I'm a servant of Allah. That's it. That's the only one I'm going
yeah,
to accept.
yeah.
Yeah.
Any other labels that
Alhamdulillah.
I've created are not helpful.
No,
Yeah,
that's
and you
right.
know, when Daniela said that, like, well, even though this is not like a story again about addiction, but about seeing the person and not the label, like goes back to Prophet Yaqub, like, and his children. So they have actually done this thing, like a very horrible thing. But again, what he's seeing are his children. What he's seeing are the children, not the people who have committed that act. And so he's, you know, he's also not running away from his feelings, like he's grieving, like when he needs to grieve, he's crying, but he's crying like it's about, you know, the healing and the hope, like with Allah. It's not about this person made me cry, like all that, but accepting that even our emotions, like we will go through our emotions, they're also a gift from Allah. They're us living, like being present, like with ourselves and our feelings. And in doing that, so when coming back to this, like the scenario of if it's having a family member suffering with addiction, is knowing that whatever our feelings are, they're not coming. Yes, they're being maybe they're being introduced by having this, but they're coming from like our own thoughts, our own feelings, and
Yes.
we're dealing with them.
Yeah.
We're experiencing them alongside this happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
So of course, if yourself or you have a loved one that needs support, or you know that they need support, or you would like support around how to talk to that loved one and reaching out for support, we've got a link that Daniela
Yeah, I'll
will
just get it
pop
up
in the
right now.
chat. It's, you know, starts with a conversation. Starts with a conversation with us of reaching out and just going, I'm at my wit's end. I need some help here. Or if you're the person that you're struggling at the moment with addiction, then yeah, same thing. Just have that conversation.
Yeah. Sorry, my computer is running a little bit
That's okay.
nuts.
The link will be there soon.
Yeah.
And it's the pretty easy process is just answering a couple of questions, and then Danielle will reach out to you and we'll see how we can support you further.
Yeah.
Because there's many different ways in which we can do that, whether it's one-on-one support or introducing you to many of the other programs and workshops and things that we have running, or even recordings,
Yeah.
but it just starts with a conversation. And I have to say that too, that in trying to connect with a loved one, it starts with a conversation too, to change the way.
That's right.
I don't know who says it. It's like the biggest change, I don't remember, but it's like change the way you see them, like if you want someone to change the way you look at them. Something along those lines. It's like, again, it's coming back to us, because
that just reminds me of is it the hadith? If you sorry, as you said that
Allah doesn't change the condition of a person until they change it themselves.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And when we have that shift within us, to be able to see somebody, just that shift within
Well,
us.
I've experienced. Surely you've experienced that. The way you all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm not going to. I'm sort of over that way of dealing with that particular person. I'm going to change that way. I'm going to deal with them.
Yeah.
I'm going to be nice for the sake of Allah. And all of a sudden, you have this beautiful conversation with this person of which you perhaps were dreading seeing, and it's that simple and that powerful sometimes.
Alhamdulillah. And that's the ripple effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's beautiful how that works. Alhamdulillah. And as up here, the comment where she said, having that one person that doesn't judge and listen is enough. And it's so true. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
That's it. Yeah, it takes one person to change. I mean, you think about, with our kids too, I mean, even think about yourself, if you're talking about when you're at school or something, a lot of what you remember, like there's probably just one person throughout there, one teacher or one interaction or something that you might have had with one person. And it's like, that really means a lot. You've really held on to that. It's very inspirational.
Yeah.
So
I guess maybe if we leave off on that, I mean, we haven't really got anything in the comments or anything like that, but maybe just asking yourself, what is the one thing that I can change or shift within myself that might bring more peace to my home? For those of us who may have loved ones with addiction. And when I'm talking about addictions, I'm talking about the hard substances or alcohol, or not the coffee or the tea, coffee, like not those sort of things, although it's equally as important. I'm talking about, when I'm dealing with, for families in particular, it is the more substance, whether it's substance abuse, alcohol, or porn. These are the ones, and that's where we can sort of ask ourselves that, what is the one thing that I can shift within myself to be able to bring more peace into my home, to be able to see that other person from fresh eyes without the scratch lenses. I was going to put my glasses on. Hang on.
You should. You should.
Sorry, they were just here. I've changed desks and they're handy.
Yeah. So I guess we could probably close it there. And I just want to Yeah, you know, just with the Quran, I'm going to say it in English, obviously. All servants who have transgressed against themselves, do not despair of the mercy of Allah. Indeed, Allah forgives all sins.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. Jazakallah khair. If you do need support, you know, there is a link here in the chat on Zoom. Reach out, inshallah, and we'll see how, or it'll be me. I can see how we can help you, inshallah. And yeah, Jazakallah khair. Beautiful.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Jazakallah khair for being here, everyone, as well. This has been your presence here has been beautiful, and what this means to us as well. Alhamdulillah. Anything that we've said is good is from Allah, and anything we've said is bad is from us. May Allah forgive us. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.